Alright everyone, welcome back to another video, and in today's video what I have for everyone is my full camera walkthrough in the photo and video samples for the iPhone 15 Plus. Alright, so what I'm going to do for everyone is I'm going to take you guys and gals through all the important aspects in regards to the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus, and then I'm going to attach all of my photo samples that I've taken, and then I'm going to attach all of my video samples that I've taken, and come back at the end of the video and let you guys and gals know how I feel about this device in regards to the cameras and whether or not I can recommend this device strictly based off of its camera performance. Okay, that being said, I will not be doing a camera software walkthrough for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. It's basically the same as the other camera walkthroughs that I've done for all the other iOS devices. There are just one or two different settings that are different between the 15 Plus and the 13 Pro Max, and it's running older software. In my opinion, I feel like the older software is better. The 13 Pro Max that I still have it on iOS 18.5, whereas my 15 Plus is running the newer software on iOS 26.1. All right, and also, just to let everyone know, I will not have a software walkthrough for the iPhone 15 Plus because I've already made it known I do like the visual overhaul for iOS 26, but I don't like how it eats up the RAM, okay? But I did find a really good YouTube channel that did a really comprehensive deep dive on the software on iOS 26, and I'll link that up down below in the video description going forward. So I will have still a software walkthrough for you guys and gals, but it just won't be made by me, all right? I just wanted to point that out as well. Now, before we get into the main part of the camera software, I just want to point out some differences between the 15 Plus and the 13 Pro Max, okay? Other than the fact that the 13 Pro Max has the additional telephoto sensor, the 13 Pro Max also gets an additional setting, right? So if we go into the settings here, okay, and we go to the cameras, right here, if we scroll all the way down, all of these settings are the same, but on the 13 Pro Max here, and I'll have a screenshot thrown up in the video and post for everyone, because the 13 Pro Max has the third telephoto sensor, it has macro controls, meaning you can use the telephoto sensor to take better macro shots. You don't have that same option here on the 15 Plus. But everything else is the same. You just get that one additional setting because the 13 Pro Max has an additional camera. All right? I just wanted to point that out. All right? Now, let's get into walking through the rest of these cameras. Now, talking about how you launch the cameras, it's basically been the same, and it still remains the same. You can basically launch the cameras by tapping on the camera icon, no matter where you have it on your device, no matter what home screen it's in, or if you want to swipe over to your app drawer and search for it, you can find it there as well. Or you can swipe up on the camera icon from the home screen or lock screen when you first unlock the device and drop into the cameras that way. Okay? Now, what's different is on the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max and newer, you have that action button, which you can also program to launch you into the cameras as well. That action button you can actually make behave similar to what Android devices do, to where you tap it and it drops you into the cameras. Okay? Other than that, it's basically the same way that you can launch into the cameras on your iOS device. All right? So, with that out of the way, now let's take a deeper dive into the main camera interface here. So tapping on it, dropping into it, and this is where I will say, like I said, I do like the overall visual overhaul that iOS 26 has, especially when we talk about the camera interface. I like how Apple has cleaned up everything and made it more simplified, and they've added more quick shortcuts so you don't necessarily have to jump out of the camera composition window to change a particular thing. So you can see in the photo mode here, we can quickly toggle our 48 megapixel primary sensor to take full 48 megapixel resolution shots, or we can set it to the default, which is 24 in my case. Okay, now by default out of the box, it downsamples to 12, but what I did was I went into the camera settings here, okay, and I actually upscaled it to 24 megapixels. That's what I did there. Okay, and you can actually see, I believe it's in here in formats. See right here, I upscaled the front-facing sensor and the rear-facing sensor. So you can see by default here in formats, where it says resolution control, by default is set to 12 megapixels. So it downsamples all the cameras to 12 megapixel shots. But you can also upscale the shots. So I actually toggled this so I can upscale the shots, and then you can see I actually changed it to upscale it to 24 megapixels. Okay? But you can go in and switch it back to the default and set it to 12. But I like to have mine at the highest resolution possible. So for the front-facing sensors, it's upscaled to 12 megapixels, right? And for the rear-facing sensors, it's either going to be 24 megapixels or 48 megapixels. It's not going to downsample to 12 megapixels. Like I said, I like to have mine at the highest resolution possible. So that's why y'all saw that there in the main camera interface there. I just wanted to show y'all that. Just in case you're like, yours looks different than mine's. That's why. Okay? But other than that, going back into the main camera interface, I do like how they added these quick additional shortcuts. So you can see in the top left, we have the exposure control quick shortcut. And then just below that, we have our resolution quick shortcut for the main 48 megapixel sensor. Right? And I like how it pops down and gives you a short description of what's happening, and you can easily read what it's set to. I like that. And then once you tap it, it brings you out, right? So that's really, really cool. And then also, if I want to turn it off and on, I just have to quickly tap on it. And then right across the way from that, we have our night mode controls. So you can see I could tap on it to turn it off. I could tap on it to turn it on. Then we have our flash controls. I could tap on it to turn it off. I could tap on it to turn it on. And then we have this grid box. And this will take us into our subsettings in the cameras. Again, I really, really like how they did this. So again, we have access to the flash controls, which you guys already saw. But we have access to our live photo controls. So you could turn it on, or you could turn it off, or you can set it to auto. I don't like live photos, so I always turn mine off. Okay, then we have timer controls. And I like how when you tap on it, it takes you into an additional subsetting so you can set it where you want. So for our timer, which is only available in the photo modes, we have 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or off. I have mine set to off. So you can tap on it to select it and it goes away, or you could tap on it and then hit the X and then it will go away and then it will be set. Okay? And then if we go back in here, we have our exposure controls that you could tap on and dial in, and it will leave your exposure settings up in the upper left-hand corner there. And again, you set it and then it goes away, or you can exit off if you don't want to change it. I don't like to do too many exposure adjustments, so I leave mine set to 0. Then we have our photographic styles, and you can dial this in the camera settings, or you can dial it in from here. So you can see you can change it and dial it in exactly how you want. But me, myself, I don't really use photographic style, so I leave it set to standard. Okay. And then we have our filters, which is self-explanatory. Tap on it, you can set the filter that you want. I don't really use filters. And if I do, I apply it after the photo was taken. Then going back in here, we got our aspect ratio. And I like how the aspect ratio changes on the fly when you tap on it. So by default, I think it comes set to 16:9, which is the cinematic view. But I like to use the full aspect ratio of my device. So I usually set all my devices to 4:3. But you can see if I tap on it, it will adjust in real time. So it goes from 4:3 to 16:9 to 1:1 square to 4:3. Okay, so I like that one, and I like how that one adjusts in real time. And then we have our night mode controls. So you can set it to 3 seconds, 2 seconds, or you can turn it off. I usually have mine turned on and I set it to 2. Okay, that's why I have my night mode set. And that's the additional subsettings that they've added with iOS 26. And again, I like the visual overhaul that they put here. On older versions, this was still here, but it was a little bit more cumbersome and not as clean. Whereas it's a lot cleaner on iOS 26. I like that. And a lot easier and simpler to understand what's going on. I like that as well. And then below that, we have our main composition window. And then we have our quick shortcuts to the different cameras. Now, we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. Okay. Then we have a 48 megapixel primary camera. And then we have a quick shortcut to a 2x crop on the main 48 megapixel primary sensor. And then if we tap and hold on any one of these shortcuts, we can granularly dial in the zoom where we want it to be. So for photos, we can zoom all the way up to 10 times. And then for the ultra wide, you can go between 0.9 times and 0.5 times. And me, myself, I love shooting at 0.9 times with the ultra wide. This makes it just wide enough to be really, really good. Okay. And then you can see you can set it. And then when you tap on it and go back, it readjusts. So if I tap to the 2 times and go back, it goes back to 0.5. But you can dial that in exactly how you want it. And in the sub settings, you have preserve mode. So basically you could dial in your cameras exactly how you want it and then toggle on preserve mode, and then it will keep your settings exactly how you set it. Okay? So that's one thing I also wanted to point out. All right? Now, talking about the front-facing cameras now. The front-facing camera is basically a 12 megapixel sensor along with your Face ID sensors and 3D dot matrix for your Face ID. But this is basically a 12 megapixel sensor, right? And we don't really have any resolution adjustments for the front-facing sensor, right? But we do still have access to all of the other shortcuts. Now, anything that you can't do with the front-facing sensor, it will kick you back to the rear, all right? Just wanted to point that out right here. Let's go back to the rear real quick. Now, below our main composition window, we have our shutter button. Then to the left of that, we got a quick shortcut to our gallery or photo library, as Apple likes to call it. And then underneath our shutter button, we have a quick shortcut to the different modes. Now you can tap on the different modes to get to them, or you can swipe through the different modes to get to them from left to right. And I really, really like how they did this. So from left to right, we have time lapse. Then we have slow motion mode. And slow motion mode can go from 120 frames per second slow motion to 240 frames per second slow motion. And you can use the primary 48 megapixel sensor and the ultra wide 12 megapixel sensor for your slow motion video. Then you keep swiping to the right, we get cinematic video. or portrait style video, which is what Android likes to call it. iOS calls it cinematic video. So really, really good stuff there. And for cinematic video, you can do it in 1080p at 30 frames per second, or 4K at 30 frames per second, or 24 frames per second. And you can do that with just your primary sensor. So your primary 48 megapixel sensor. Okay? Then if we keep swiping here, we get to our main video mode. And here, you can record in up to 1080p and 4K up to 60 FPS. Okay? Now, if you're like well, I want to record at a lower resolution, you can still get to that, but you have to jump out of the main camera interface, jump into the settings, jump into the camera settings, and then go to record video. And then if you come in here, you still do have access to your 720p video recording. Okay? But me, myself, I record at 1080p, so I set the 1080p to the default. Okay? But you can still change it down to 720p, but you have to jump in here and set that. Okay? That's one thing I want y'all to keep in mind. And also, inside of the main camera settings here, you have the preserve settings. So you come in the preserve settings here, and you toggle on what you want, and the camera will remember it based on how you configure it. Okay? I wanted to point that out as well. Alright? So I just wanted to highlight that for everyone. Let's go back into the main viewfinder here. So for the videos there, that's pretty much self-explanatory. So full HD, 30 frames per second, or 60 frames per second, or 24 frames per second, or 4K at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. Okay? Now, you do have quick shortcuts to controlling your flash, so turning it off and on. You do also have quick shortcuts to turning on action mode, okay? Or that's what Apple likes to call it, action mode, but coming from the Android world, that's what we would call super steady mode. So that will give you super steady video, okay? But Apple calls it action mode. So you have a quick shortcut there to turn it off and on, okay? And then if we hit our grid box again, you get quick shortcuts here to what we already talked about, but you do have the additional exposure controls that you can dial in for video, okay? But everything else here inside of the sub settings here is basically a toggle like what you saw before. Okay? So it's basically just a toggle. Alright? So that's the main video mode right there. And if we keep swiping, we get portrait mode. Y'all know portrait mode is pretty much self-explanatory. And if we keep swiping, we get panoramic mode. Okay? Panoramic mode is also pretty much self-explanatory. So this, guys and gals, goes over all of the important aspects of the camera interface and main viewfinder and subsettings for the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. Okay? And then another thing I want to show y'all is if I go to the photo gallery here and we pull up a photo, if you ever want to see what resolution your photo was taken in, maybe you're not sure, or if you ever want to see what camera you took the photo with, so you can see I have a photo here from my time at the gym. We were getting it in the other day. And let's say I wasn't sure what camera I took this photo with. If I swipe up, it gives me that information. So you can see here, this photo was taken with the primary sensor set to 48 megapixels, and then it gives me the resolution. Okay? So it gives me the main resolution, and then it gives me the focal length resolution. So if you ever wanted to know that, that's how you would know that. Okay? I just wanted to point that out as well. All right, everyone? All right, everyone. So this concludes the camera walkthrough portion of the video. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach all of my photo samples like I said earlier, and also I'm going to go ahead and attach all of my video samples like I said earlier as well. And because this will be a longer video, this entire video will be timestamped for your convenience. So please feel free to check out the video description so you can jump around to different parts of the video that you would like to know more about. Or if you just want to do me a solid and sit down and watch the whole thing all the way through, that would be greatly appreciated as well. But I know everybody's time is limited, so that's why those timestamps are in there, so you can jump around to the different aspects of the cameras that you would like to know more about. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed this section of the video, and I hope you guys and gals enjoyed the other sections of the video, and I will see you guys at the end of the video. Peace for now. Alright everyone, and now we are back in with another video for everyone, and today we're going to get into testing out the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. So starting off with the camera test, we're outside in shooting space number 1, and we're testing out the front-facing cameras to start in a stationary vlog style test. So this is the front-facing 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone 15 Plus. This is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Please let me know what you guys and gals think of this. Now, let me spin the cameras around and we'll test out the rear-facing cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me a second, I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of tests. I'll see y'all. All right, everyone, and now we're gonna get into testing the rear-facing ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera and the primary 48 megapixel camera outdoors, daytime, good light scenarios on the iPhone 15 Plus. And this is going to be recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So we're gonna test everything. We're gonna do some pan tests, we're gonna do some exposure tests, we're gonna do some focus testing, and we're gonna round out the testing with a zoom test. So please let me know how you guys and gals feel the cameras perform, and let's jump into the testing, starting off with the ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera first. This is the ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera, and as y'all can see, it has a 120-degree field of view. Let's do the pans. Let's go. So we're gonna pan from here all the way through to right about there and back. We're gonna do it 2 times, so that was 1. And remember, when you're trying to get your pans down, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Okay, and here we go with number 2. Okay, let's bring it back to the center. So that was the pan test with the ultra wide cameras. Now let's switch to the primary 48 megapixel camera and redo the pan test. Notice the difference in detail and field of view when we switch between the cameras. Here we go. Gonna pan from here all the way through. I see a lizard over there. You better not come near me. To right about there and back. So that was 1. Okay, here we go with number 2. Okay, and let's bring it back to the center. Okay, so that was the pan testing. Now let's switch back to the ultra wide. Did he just jump down? He did just jump down. Listen, bro, stay over there. Don't you come over here, because I will run away. All right, now let's switch back to the ultra wide camera and let's do the exposure testing now. Let's go. So we're gonna pan up and down to the ground, and we're gonna lock focus on that tree in the center there. And when we test the exposure, we want a nice even transition from the lighted areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene with minimal to no exposure blowout. And if the cameras do blow out, we want them to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. Here we go, we're gonna do this test 2 times. Here we go. So lining up and going down and coming back up. That's 1. Going down and coming back up. That's 2. Now let me switch to the primary. Now let's redo the exposure test with the primary 48 megapixel camera. Here we go, 2 times. Going down, coming up. 1. Going down, coming up. 2. There you go. Now let's switch back to the ultra wide and let's do some focus testing here. Let's go. So the ultra wide cameras can do everything the primary cameras can do. So we have continuous autofocus as well as tap to focus. Okay, so we're gonna test out both continuous autofocus and tap to focus on both cameras. Here we go. We're going to test continuous autofocus first. We're going to let the phone do everything. Here we go. And we're going to use these three focal subjects. So the bushes to the left right there, the tree to the center that we have been using, and then this icy white pillar to the right. Those are going to be our three focal subjects, and we're going to test 2 times each camera, okay? And each time, okay? So we're going to test the continuous autofocus 2 times. We're going to test the tap to focus 2 times, and then we're going to switch cameras and test again. Let's get started. So continuous autofocus first, and let's not waste any time. Bushes to the left. That looks really good. Tree to the center. That also looks really good. Pillar to the right. That also looks really good. That's 1. Let's go again. Bushes to the left. Tree to the center. Pillar to the right. That's 2. Let me adjust my grip. And we're going to do the same thing with tap to focus now. Here we go. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. That was basically instant. Tree to the center. Tap. Locked up. Again, basically instant. Pillar to the right. Tap. Locked up. Again, basically instant. Really, really fast. But then again, we're out here in good lighting today, so these video samples should be pretty much perfect. Okay? But let's test it one more time. Let's go. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. Tree to the center. Tap. Locked up. And pillar to the right. Tap. Locked up. Now, to disengage and re-engage autofocus, here's what you have to do. You have to lock autofocus by pressing and holding anywhere on the screen. You're going to get the autofocus, auto exposure lock icon across the top. And then you're going to tap anywhere on the screen to re-engage autofocus. So now autofocus is re-engaged, and you'll see your green focusing square kind of pulse. All right, real quick. And that will indicate to you that autofocus has been re-engaged. Okay, so that's how you engage and disengage autofocus. All right, but that concludes the focus testing with the primary cameras. Now let's switch down to the that concludes the autofocus testing and focus testing with the ultra wide cameras. My mistake. Now let's switch down to the primary cameras. Okay, and let's redo the test. And again, we're going to start with autofocus first, and we're going to use our same 3 focal subjects. So here we go. Bushes to the left. Locked up. Okay. Tree in front. Locked up. And then pillar to the right. Locked up. At least it looks like it is. Again, I don't know because we're letting the camera do all the work. Okay, so that was 1. Coming back over. Bushes to the left. That looks good. Tree to the center. That also looks good. And then pillar to the right. That also looks good. Okay, now let me readjust my grip. And we'll do tap to focus again. So bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. It locked up almost instantly. That was really good. Tree to the center. Tap. Locked up again, almost instant. Focusing speeds are really, really fast. And then pillar to the right, tap, locked up. Really, really good stuff there as well. Okay, let's do it one more time. Bushes to the left, tap, locked up. A little bit of an exposure adjustment there. Tree to the center, tap, locked up. Really, really fast. And then pillar to the right, tap, locked up. Really good stuff there. Now, y'all see that big bush all the way out there in the distance? We're going to zoom in on that bad boy. So I'm going to tap to lock the focus. Then I'm going to press and hold to lock it in. Okay. And we're going to see our autofocus, auto exposure lock come up. And then I'm going to dial in the scene by adjusting the exposure using the slider. So we're going to make it look as accurate to the scene as possible. Yep, that's it. And then we're going to zoom in. Now, what's really cool here is that once you lock the focus and lock the exposure, it keeps your settings through both your cameras. So right now we're on the primary 48 megapixel camera, but if I tap the shortcut and we go to the ultra wide camera, it keeps those same exposure settings. It just passes them down or over to the ultra wide camera. So now we're on the ultra wide camera and we're still lined up and we have the focus and exposure locked on that same tree in the distance. And we're gonna go ahead and zoom through the ranges. So now we're on the ultra wide 12 megapixel camera or 1.5 times zoom as indicated in the camera, okay? Now we're gonna go up to 0.9 times zoom. So we're gonna press and hold, and we're gonna slide all the way up to 0.9 times. So now this is 0.9 times zoom. This is actually my favorite zoom focal range for the ultra wide camera, okay? Now let's switch to the primary camera here. So now we're on the primary camera at 1 time zoom. Now let's go up to 1.5 times zoom. Now this is 1.5 times zoom on the primary camera, okay? Now let's go up to 2 times zoom. 2 times zoom on the primary camera, and they do have a shortcut indicator, quick shortcut indicator to 2 times zoom. And like I said before, this is just a digital crop on the main 48 megapixel sensor, okay? Now let's go up to 2.5 times zoom, okay? Right here, 2.5 times zoom. And this would be as far as I would recommend for digitally zooming or digitally cropping the image on the iPhone, okay? Because this to me still looks good. You still have decent detail, you have decent stabilization, decent color representation. This is as high as I would recommend you zoom with your cameras. If you still need to get closer to your subject, you need to physically move closer to your subject. But let's see what happens as we continue to zoom in. So let's go up to 3.5 times zoom now. Let's go. So 3.5 right here, okay? And now let's go up to 4.5, 4.5 right here. And now let's max it out. So now it's maxed out at 6 times zoom. And look at that image, guys and gals. Look at how much shakier the image has gotten. Look at how much detail we have lost from the bushes there. Look how washed out it is. Look how you can't even tell the separation between the leaves. This is why I don't recommend you zoom in with the zoom in shortcuts. Because after a certain extent, you're just digitally cropping the image, and all that does is digitally wash out the image, okay? But this is an example of what the max zoom range looks like on the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus, okay? Once again, let me take you back through the recommendations before we wrap up this video test. So on the ultra wide, I would recommend the maximum zoom setting, 1.5, or I would recommend 1.9 for the ultra wide. So that was 1.5, and this is 1.9. That's what I would recommend for the ultra wide. For the primary cameras, I would recommend 1 times or 1.5 times on the primary cameras, or 2 times or 2.5 times, okay? Those are my recommendations for the primary cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. And this concludes the first set of testing on the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run inside and we're gonna retest these cameras again in indoor daytime low light scenario settings. So give me a little bit and I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of tests. I'll see y'all in a little bit. All right, everyone, and now we're gonna get into testing out the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. Indoors daytime low light testing here, and starting off the low light testing, we're testing out the front facing 12 megapixel camera in 1080p at 30 FPS. And again, this is indoors daytime low light testing, and this is a real quick vlog style stationary test. So let me know how y'all feel the front facing 12 megapixel camera is performing. Now, let me spin the cameras around and we'll test out the rear-facing cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me a little bit. I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of tests. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. All right, everyone. Now, as promised, I just spun the cameras around, and now we're going to get into testing the ultra-wide 12 megapixel rear-facing camera and the 48 megapixel primary camera on the iPhone 15 Plus. Again, this is indoor daytime low light testing, and this is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So please let me know how y'all feel the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus are performing. Let's do some quick verifications and jump into today's testing. Let's go. So panning over here, I just want to show everyone that this is indeed indoor daytime low light testing. So you can see my studio lights are turned off and my smart overhead or lamp lights are also turned off. So the only thing we have lighting up the scene here today is the natural light coming in through my window here. And you can see I have opened my blinds and I have cracked my shades. So we do have natural light coming in through the window. So this is indeed an indoor daytime low light test. Okay? Okay. Just wanted to do that quick verification for everyone. Now, let's angle up the cameras in the traditional reviewer style angle and get into the rest of the camera testing. Let's go. So panning this over, making sure this is nice and straight and lined up. That looks good. And now we're going to pan it down. And boom, that also looks good. So this is what the ultra-wide cameras perform like in an indoor daytime low light test. Okay? And actually, I feel like I'm a little crooked. There we go. That's a little better. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I felt like I was a little crooked. So now it should be straight. All right? So this is what the ultra-wide cameras perform like in an indoor daytime low light test. Let's do some detail checking. Let's do some focus checking. And then we'll switch to the primary cameras. Let's go. So picking up my keyboard here. How legible are the keys from the ultra-wide camera? How readable is this? How legible is this? Let me know down below. Actually, that looks decent. And this is where you're going to definitely see the difference in detail and quality for the cameras. Because as your cameras lose light, they struggle to perform at a good level. Okay? So what do y'all think? How legible is those keys, or are those keys? How readable are those keys? Okay? Leave your feedback down below in the comments. Now, let us do a focus test. So I got my S7 active right here. And let's lock the focus. Okay? And now, how much detail is the ultra-wide camera picking up from the S7 active here? Okay? Let's try to get in tight on the smaller text. How readable is that? How legible is that? Yeah, it's definitely struggling in this lower light scenario here. Okay? Okay. Now, let's switch to the primary 48 megapixel camera and redo the testing. And again, pay attention to the differences in field of view and the differences in quality and detail retention. So I'm going to leave it in the same space. So just so y'all can see the difference in field of view, I'm not going to move anything. I'm just going to tap the shortcut to switch between the cameras. So this is the ultra wide. And now this is the primary. You see the difference in field of view? Again, I didn't move anything. Let's do it one more time. This is the primary and this is the ultra wide. Okay? And let's go back to the primary. Boom. Just so y'all can see the difference in field of view. Now let me line this up similar to how the ultra wide camera was lined up, and we'll continue the testing. So let me back up a little bit. Okay. Let me angle this down just a touch. Okay, good. And that looks really, really similar, or as close as I can get it, to how the ultra-wide camera was lined up. So now, let's redo the testing with the primary camera. So let me pick up my keyboard here. And again, how legible or how readable are these keys in this low light scenario here? That actually looks noticeably better than the ultra-wide. Okay? What do y'all think? Let me pan this through. Good stuff. Now let's do some focus testing with the primary cameras here. So, picking back up the S7 Active here and bringing it into the frame, and you can see how quickly the primary camera's locked focus. Look at the nice shallow depth of field going on in the background here. That's one of the telltale signs. You can see the primary camera has locked focus. Look at the nice stipple pattern the primary camera is pulling out of the back of the S7 Active. Look at that detail. Look at that. Let's see if we can get it to focus on the smaller text. All right, that looks good. Now, how legible is that, guys and gals? How readable is that? Okay. Honestly, I can read that pretty good looking through the viewfinder. And again, look at the nice shallow depth of field going on with the background, really guiding your eyes to lock focus on the subject. Really good stuff. Now, let's recheck the focusing speeds. So we're going to take my device out and see how quickly it relocks focus on my keyboard in the background. We're going to do this 2 times. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And look how quickly it relocked focus on my keyboard. There was a little bit of slight hesitation, but overall it did a really good job. Okay, let's do it one more time. So bringing my device back in. Look how quickly it locked up focus on my device. Again, check out the nice stipple pattern it's pulling out. And this is how you could tell the difference in performance from the ultra wide to the primary cameras. Okay. Again, let's try to lock focus on that small text down there. Get it in nice and tight. Again, how readable is that? How legible is that? Let me know down below in the comments. That actually looks really, really good. Okay, let's take it out and see how quickly the device relocks focus on the keyboard in the background. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom, and we're back on the keyboard. Okay, what do you guys and gals think? How do you feel the cameras performed there? Let me know down below in the comments. But this concludes the indoor daytime low light testing and outdoor testing in 1080p for the front and the rear facing cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. Once again, this was recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So please let me know how you guys and gals feel about the overall detail, the quality, the stabilization, and the audio coming out of the onboard microphones for the iPhone 15 Plus. Now what we're going to do is a little bit later on in the evening, I'm going to retest these cameras again in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios. And then a little bit later on this week, I'm going to retest these cameras for the final time in 4K at 30 FPS. And then I'm going to let you guys and gals know how I feel about these cameras and if I could recommend this device strictly based off of its camera performance. All right, so it's going to be a couple hours to a couple days for me, but it's going to be a couple seconds for you guys and gals. So I'll see you guys in the next set of tests. I'll see y'all in a little bit. All right, everyone, and now we are testing out the front and the rear-facing cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios. So starting off with the first test in this nighttime artificial lighting scenario, we're testing out the front-facing 12-megapixel camera in a nice stationary vlog-style test. And once again, this is also being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So let me know how you guys and gals feel the front-facing cameras are performing in this artificial lighting scenario. Okay? Now let me spin the cameras around and let's get into testing out the rear-facing cameras in the same lighting scenario. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back with everyone for the next set of test clips here. I'll see you guys and gals in a little bit. All right, everyone, and now, as promised, we're testing out the rear-facing ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera and the rear-facing 48 megapixel primary camera on the iPhone 15 Plus, and this is another low-light artificial lighting test. So, let me do some real quick verifications for everyone, and then we'll jump into the testing. Let's go. So, if I pan over here, you guys and gals can indeed see this is indeed a nighttime artificial lighting test, because you can see my shades and my blinds are still cracked, and you can see if you look in the top corner there, it's pitch black outside. And you can also see that my overhead smart lights are turned on and my smart lamp lights are turned on as well. So this is indeed a nighttime artificial lighting test, okay? However, I am not using my studio lights, because if I did use my studio lights, it would kind of be like cheating. My studio lights are like perfectly calibrated to the right color temperature and the right brightness. And if I turn them on and angle it up, it would be perfect lighting in here. So we're not going to cheat and do that. But I figured artificial lighting using my smart lights and my overhead lights should be good enough. Anyways, quick verification for everyone. Now let's angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle and continue on with the testing. Let's go. So panning over here, let's get everything nice and straight like that. Let me back up a little bit. There we go. And then let me pan everything down. There we go. Just like that. Okay? Actually, I could slide forward a little bit as well. There we go. That's perfect right there. That's perfect. All right. And here you guys and gals can see how the ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera would perform in this nighttime artificial lighting scenario here. Check this out, right? Take note of the field of view. And now let's check the detail retention and do some focus testing. Let's go. So picking up my keyboard here. Y'all let me know how legible and readable the keys are on my keyboard. Okay. What do y'all think? Okay. And then let's do a quick focus test. Now, you do still have the same focus, exposure, and all those controls with the ultra wide as you have with the primary, but this is where you can tell the actual difference in quality of the lenses, because you can see the ultra wide camera, even though it has a good amount of light, it is struggling to pull out the details on the back of my S7 Active right here. Okay? And once we redo this test with the primary camera, you guys and gals are going to see a big difference and boost in overall quality of the lenses. But the primary reason to have an ultra wide is to get more in the shot. Okay? If you're going to use your ultra wide cameras to record the bulk of your footage with your smartphone, you need to make sure you have the most light possible. That way you get the best ultra wide footage possible. But the minute you go into lower light scenarios, you really want to stick to using that primary sensor. Okay? All right. Now, real quickly, I want y'all to take note of the difference in field of view. And let's compare the two. So this is the ultra-wide 12 megapixel sensor. And now I'm going to keep everything in the same position. And we're going to just switch quickly to the primary 48 megapixel sensor. Here we go. And now, with everything in the same position, we're on the primary 48 megapixel sensor. Look at the difference in the field of view. But also, look at the overall boost in quality and detail of the image. Once again, let me show you one more time. So this is the primary 48 megapixel sensor. and this is the ultra wide sensor. And now let's go back to the primary sensor. And now let me angle everything up so we have a similar angle as to what we had with the ultra wide. So let me back up right here. And let me angle down just a little bit more right there. Come forward a little bit. That's perfect right there. Boom. And now we have a similar angle as to what we had with the ultra wide camera. So once again, let's do a detail test and let's do some focus testing. So picking up my keyboard, check out how much more legible and readable the keys are on my keyboard, even in this artificial lighting scenario here. This is more than usable. Yeah, and as I said, this is where you guys and gals will see the noticeable difference in quality of the camera lenses as well. Okay, now let's do a focus test real quickly. So picking up my S7 Active again. Boom, look at that. And you can tell when the primary camera gets focused because it blurs out the background. Look at this nice shallow depth of field going on in the background here. And look at how it really brings out the back stipple pattern on the back of my S7 Active right here. Again, this is also another way you can tell the differences in the quality of the lenses between the ultra wide and primary cameras. Okay? So now let's try to get in nice and tight on the smaller text. And you guys and gals, let me know down below in the comments how readable and or how legible that text is. And again, look at that nice blurred out finish in the background there. Looking good. All right. Now let's see how quickly the cameras can relock focus on my keyboard once I take my device out of the frame. All right. We're going to do this 2 times. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And look at how quickly it relocked focus on the keyboard, even in this, it's less than adequate lighting scenario. Still did a really good job relocking the focus. Now let's test it one more time. Let me bring my device back in. And look at that. It locks up focus so quickly. So quickly. And then let's go once again to that smaller text. Let's get it nice and tight. And again, how readable and or how legible is that? This is looking really good through the viewfinder. I must say, I can more than read this with ease. I was about to say without ease. With ease. Man, y'all know I can't talk sometimes. Don't judge me. But once again, let's see how quickly it can relock focus on my keyboard in the background when I take my device out. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And again, it relocks focus really, really quickly. So really, really good stuff here, even in this lower light scenario. Okay, so this, guys and gals, concludes the 1080p testing for the front and the rear facing cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. Now, either later on tomorrow or later on sometime during the week, I'm going to do one final set of tests, testing out these cameras in 4K at 30 FPS. And then I'm going to go ahead and give you guys and gals my overall thoughts as to how I feel about these cameras here in early 2025. And, you know, I have some thoughts, especially with the iPhone 16e launch just happening a few days ago. I definitely have some thoughts. But I'm going to share that at the end of the video. So I'll see you guys and gals on the final set of test clips. I hope you guys and gals are enjoying this video and finding it helpful. And I'll see you guys on the other side. All right, everyone. And now we are back in with the final set of camera tests on the iPhone 15 Plus. We're outside in the main shooting space here. And we're recording with the front and rear facing cameras in 4K at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So let's get into the last set of tests. We're going to do some pan tests, we're going to do some exposure tests, we're going to do some focus testing, and then we're going to end the video with a zoom test. So starting off here, we're going to start off testing out the ultra wide 12 megapixel camera. And once again, for the final time, the ultra wide 12 megapixel camera has a 120 degree field of view. Okay, so let's do these pans now. Let's go. We're going to do the pans 2 times. So we're going to pan from there all the way through to right about there and back. So that was 1. Let's bring it on back. Boom. And here we go with number 2. Boom. Now, let's bring it back to the center. Let's test the primary 48 megapixel camera. So switching down. Here we go. Let's pan the 48 megapixel camera here. So starting from here, all the way through to right about there. That's 1. Bring it on back. Here we go with number 2. That's 2. Come on back to the center. All right. Now let's switch back to the ultra wide and let's do the exposure test. So let me line up on this tree and we're just going to pan up and down from the grass. And really what we want to see when we test the exposure is a nice smooth transition from the lighter areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene with minimal to no exposure blowout. And if the cameras do blow out, we want them to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. All right, we're going to do it 2 times with the ultra wide and 2 times with the primary. Here we go. So lined up on the tree and we're panning down. Okay. And we're coming back up. That's 1. Going down again. And we're going back up. That's 2. What do y'all think? All right, now let's switch to the primary camera and let's do it again. So lined up on the tree and we're panning down. And we're coming back up. That's 1. Going down again. And we're coming back up. That's 2. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? All right, so now let's get into testing out the focus. We're going to do the ultra wide camera first, and then we're going to do the primary camera. So like I've been saying throughout the camera test, everything you can do with the primary 48 megapixel camera, you can do with the ultra wide camera. So we got continuous autofocus, we got tap to focus, we got exposure controls, and we got focus locking controls. So this first focus test, we're strictly going to be using the continuous autofocus. Then we're going to switch to using tap to focus. Then we're going to do the same thing again with the primary 48 megapixel camera. So here we go, testing out the focus on the ultra wide 12 megapixel camera. Let's do this. So we're going to pick our 3 focal subjects. The tree over the shed, that's going to be 1. This tree in front of us, that's going to be 2. And then let's pick this one. This tree to the left of us or to the right of us, that's going to be 3. Okay? So this is going to be focal subject number 3. That's going to be focal subject number 2. And that's going to be focal subject number 1. And we're going to test out the continuous autofocus first. Here we go. Ready? Lined up on number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay? One more time. We're going to do each one twice. So we're going to do one more time. Number 1, number 2, number 3. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Now, let me readjust my grip here. Try not to drop the phone like a noob. And now we're going to test out the tap to focus. So here we go. Tree over the shed, tap, locked up. Tree in front, tap, locked up. And then tree to my right, tap, locked up. Really fast overall focusing speed in my opinion. Let's do it one more time. Tree over the shed, tap, locked up. Tree in front, tap, locked up. Let me see if I can tap right on that blossom. There we go. Boom. And then tree to my right, tap, locked up. Really, really fast focusing speeds, but we're pretty much out here in really good lighting today, so I would expect all the cameras to perform really, really well. And it's at maximum 4K resolution, so again, I would expect the cameras to perform at their best, okay? So, that was the focus test on the ultra-wide camera. Now let's switch down to the primary 48 megapixel camera, and we're going to redo the test. Let's go. Continuous autofocus first. All right. So, tree over the shed. That looks good. Tree in front. That also looks good. Tree to the right. That also looks good. Okay. One more time. Tree over the shed. Ooh, it's getting windy. That looks good. Tree in front. That also looks good. Tree to the right. That also looks good. So good stuff there. Good stuff there indeed. Now let me just readjust my grip. There we go. And tap to focus test time. Tree over the shed. Tap. Locked up. That was really good. Tree in front. Tap. Locked up. Tree to the right. Tap. Locked up. Really good stuff there. One more time. Tree over the shed. Tap. Locked up. Tree in front. Tap. Locked up. Tree to the right. Tap. Locked up. Really, really good stuff there. All right, y'all. So now let's do a final zoom test. And we're going to zoom all the way in to that tree over the shed. And we're going to start from the ultra wide cameras and work our way in. And I'm going to take y'all through the entirety of the zoom range. But the first thing I want to do is lock the focus. Okay, get that focus locked up. And then we're going to dial in the exposure. Perfect to the scene here today. So let's bring it down just a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. That's actually perfect to what the scene looks like. And now we're just going to begin to zoom in to that tree over the shed. So right now you're looking at the ultra wide camera at 0.5 times zoom. Let's go up to my favorite zoom range for the ultra wide camera. So let's do that. So now we're going to go up to 0.9 times zoom. And this is still with the ultra wide camera. Check that out. Now let's go to the primary camera. This is on the primary camera at 1 time zoom. Now let's go through the zoom ranges on the primary camera. This is 1.5. This is 2 times. There's also a 2 times shortcut. Okay. It's 2.5. Right here. Let me dial it in. 2.5 times zoom right there. And this is actually as far as I would recommend in terms of digital zooming, because essentially that's what we're doing with the cameras. We're just digitally cropping the primary 48 megapixel sensor. And this is as much as I would recommend that you crop. If you still need to physically get close to your subject, you need to physically move closer to your subject. Because you're going to see after this, the image is going to really begin to start to degrade. Okay? And I'm really leaning on my walker, trying not to fall over right now as I do this zoom test. All right, so 2.5 times zoom. Let's keep going. 3.5 times zoom. 4.5 times zoom. And then we're maxed out here, 5 times zoom. Look at the difference there. You see what I'm saying? Look at how washed out the image is. Look at how shaky the image is. Look at the colors. This is why I don't recommend you zoom in all the way on your smartphone cameras. Okay? Okay, so that's the zoom test for the primary cameras on the rear of the iPhone 15 Plus. Let's zoom all the way back out now. And now we're back to the ultra wide camera. All right, everyone, so this concludes the final rear-facing camera test on the iPhone 15 Plus. Now, let me spin the cameras around and we'll test out the front-facing camera one final time, and I'm going to give y'all my closing thoughts as to how I feel about the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus. And spoiler, this might be the deal of the year. If you don't care about Apple Intelligence, getting this device might be the deal of the year, especially if you want this storage configuration and you want these cameras. This might be the one. All right, but let me spin the cameras around and let y'all know how I feel about these cameras and whether or not I can recommend that you guys and gals pick up this device strictly based off of the camera performance. Give me a second. I'm gonna figure out how I could prop this up, and then we'll record the last clip and I'll give y'all my closing thoughts. I'll be right back. All right, everyone, and now here it is, the final camera test. This time we're testing out the front-facing 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone 15 Plus. This is being recorded in 4K at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up, and I'm gonna try to get in a good position to get close to the microphones because it's really windy here today. But let me know how you guys and gals feel the front and rear facing cameras performed on the iPhone 15 Plus in 4K at 30 FPS. And I just realized something. I don't know how it happened, but my back lens camera protectors cracked. I hope it didn't affect the footage. I won't know till I watch it back in post, but that's okay. That's why we got multiple camera lens protectors. I guess I'm gonna have to run inside and change that out. I don't even know how that happened because I didn't drop my device. Maybe my car keys kind of cracked the lenses. I did have my car keys and my house keys in the same pocket as my device. Or I was working out yesterday with the phone in my pocket. Maybe that's how it cracked. I don't know. Hopefully it didn't mess up the camera footage. But let me get into sharing my final thoughts, how I feel about these cameras, especially because the iPhone 16e event was yesterday, and it's an okay device, but not at the price they're trying to sell it for. So this might be the win right here, okay? But strictly based off of the cameras, that's a topic for another video. Strictly based off of the cameras and the testing that I've done in my almost 2 months with the device, how do I feel about the cameras, and can I recommend this device strictly based off of its camera performance? Well, overall, I would have to say these are some really good cameras, okay? Whether you're shooting with the front-facing camera like I am right now, or the ultra-wide, or the primary 48 megapixel camera, I do feel as though these are some really good cameras, and I really enjoy the fact that I can record with the same resolutions regardless of whatever camera I want to use. So I really enjoy that. And I also enjoy the fact that I have access to the full range of controls with the ultra-wide camera. So although the ultra-wide camera is not the best, and you really do need really good to perfect lighting to really make it shine, the fact that I can use the ultra-wide camera for the same things I can use the primary camera for, I really enjoy that. So overall, I would have to say I really like these cameras, okay? Whether you're recording in daytime low light, nighttime low light, artificial lighting recording, these cameras are going to perform really well. And in terms of the photo performance, again, regardless of whether you're shooting with the primary, the ultra wide, the front facing camera, you're using night mode, you're using regular mode, as long as you have good lighting, good to adequate lighting, and you're taking photos, you're going to get some really good shots, okay? Really good shots. So overall, that just adds to what I said. Overall, I feel as though the cameras on the iPhone 15 Plus are really good indeed. Now, can I recommend that you guys and gals pick up this device strictly based off of its camera performance? Well, if you have the money to spend on this device, then yes, I can recommend that you guys and gals pick it up, okay? I strictly went for this device because I wanted the best absolute battery life, okay? I was actually going back and forth between whether I wanted the 15 or the 15 Plus. And I actually posed the question in one of my most recent videos. And I was going to just pull the trigger myself because nobody actually left me any feedback. But then somebody commented and they asked me to cover this device. And I was like, well, there you have it. Somebody actually wants to see it. So I'll go ahead and pick this one up. And the funny thing is, a couple days after I got that comment and I already placed my purchase, somebody else commented and was like, oh, can you look at the 16 Plus instead? And I was like, the 16 Plus was never one of the options. But, you know, it's funny how things go. But that being said, if you have the money to spend on this device, because this device was relatively expensive still, and it's actually been out for a good amount of time. As I told y'all in my unboxing and first impressions and setup video, when everything is all said and done, this device is going to run me just over $1,100. And again, this is the iPhone 15 Plus in black 256 gig model. And that's what I wanted because, to be honest with you, I was coming from a 64 gig model and woo, was I running low on space. Okay? And I feel like even after setting up my device and, you know, doing my basic testing and things, I've already used up 64 gigs of space. And that's with me offloading my testing footage to my editing devices. So that's just everything I have on the device is using up 64 gigs of space. And I don't use iCloud storage. So this is why, if I'm being 100% honest, I cannot recommend anyone pick up 128 gig storage variants of these devices, because aside from recording YouTube videos, guys and gals, I'm just an average person. I don't game. I do more social media and media consumption and content consumption on my device than anything. And I might take the occasional video and the occasional photo, especially when family comes to visit. But aside from doing these YouTube videos, I'm just an average guy. So that's why when I do my reviews, even though it's from a highly technical perspective, because I like to make sure I give you guys and gals all the details possible and then share all my opinions possible, it's basically from a tech head average customer perspective. I was trying to think of the right word. So basically a tech head average customer perspective. And man, is it windy out here and cold. It's actually 68 degrees today. Woo! That breeze is kicking. But we're gonna keep it going, and I might actually need to wrap this up because I am frozen right now. You spend as much time in Florida like I have, that blood gets thin, and anything below 77, you feel cold. I'm feeling cold right now. I don't even know how well the camera can pick it up. I got them goosebumps. But closing this up, can I recommend that you guys and gals pick up the iPhone 15 Plus, especially if you're in the market for a new device? Well, if you can get it at a really great price, and you can get the 256 gig variant at a really great price, then yes, I can recommend you guys and gals pick it up. If you cannot and you're okay with getting the smaller device, then yes, I can also recommend getting the regular 15, because these are basically the same cameras from the regular 15. As for other performance, battery performance overall, that's going to be coming in my full review a little bit later on. I'm still doing some testing, still ironing my thoughts out on some things. So y'all stay tuned, because more coverage on this device is coming soon. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I hope everyone found it helpful. If you did, you guys and gals know what to do. I hope everyone is having a great day. I hope you guys and gals are staying safe out there, and I will catch everyone in the next video. Have a good one, everybody. We're out of here. Peace. And now I'm going to use... Oh, it closed itself. Oh, well. It is what it is. I guess I got to stretch over and tap right here. Have a good one, everybody. We're out of here. Peace.